presenting the only podcast dedicated to the AHL's Colorado Eagles. This is the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. Here are your hosts, CC Hockley and Scott McDonald.
Well, hello out there and greetings. Welcome to the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. I am CC Hockley of the sinbin.net.
And I'm Scott McDonald over here at Colorado Hockey Now.
And welcome to the podcast, episode number 7 for November 13th. Happy Friday the 13th, everybody.
Ooh.
Ooh. It's not going to be any shenanigans, spooky shenanigans, rather, here on the Tape to Tape podcast. However, we've got a lot of fan questions this time around to tackle. Last time, it was all signings and re-signings. This time, we got a lot of people that want to know a lot of things about the Avalanche and the Eagles. So myself and Scott, we're going to take care of it. And let's get right to it. Let's do it. We're diving in, lucky number 7, episode 7. And we're going for it here. And like I said, we're kind of having a little reverse format than we did last time. So however, we'll keep the same format, but we're having a lot more fan questions than otherwise. But anyway, moving on. All right, first things first. It's funny because Scott and I were talking about Hunter Miska re-signing with the Avs right after our episode last time, but it didn't happen. Hunter Miska re-signed on Monday, October 19th. And then your favorite, Tyson Jost. I keep saying that. I'm never going to let you live that down. Everyone's favorite, but especially Scott McDonald's favorite, Tyson Jost re-signed with the Avs on Sunday, October 18th. And that's it. I think that's it for the re-signings for restricted free agency regarding the Avalanche.
I think so too. And then, we got a couple people that were left off that list. I think we're going to talk about a little bit later on the docket, but I think this is it. The roster you're seeing for the Avs and the Eagles is going to be the roster we're moving forward to whenever this happens. And, in January, February, or ever, if the season starts again, but we'll see. This is what you're getting.
Right. I just saw an article last night about the Hartford XL Center where the Wolfpack play, the AHL, and they're closing down that arena until next fall. So, because they're doing renovations and everything, and I'm assuming they've got a contingency plan, but that's neither here nor there. So we'll leave that be, and we'll definitely see when and where the season will start for both the NHL and the AHL. Throw the ECHL in there too, but in the meantime, we're just going to keep covering hockey and covering the game like the season is.
All we can do.
Forging ahead. Exactly, Scott. All we can do. So yeah, Josty and Miska, they're both back with the Avalanche organization. Not a big surprise that Hunter Miska re-signed with the Avalanche with Adam Warner, going to be staying in Sweden for this season. It looks like, it appears that he's going to be staying over there, and it's going to be Miska and the rookie Peyton Jones from Penn State University in net for the Eagles this season. So pretty formidable duo, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I've heard great things. Obviously, we know what Miska's capable of. He had a fantastic year last year, kind of stole the job from Adam Warner there towards the end of the year after he got injured. But I've heard great things about Peyton Jones. I know you've talked to his old coach, and you've heard great things about him. And I hear this is a guy who could potentially, steal the starting job. I think he's going to be that good, and I'm excited to see them kind of compete back and forth for that gig.
Yeah, that's always a good thing when you have, a healthy competition, not like what was going on in Vegas for a little bit there in the playoffs between Robin Lehner and Marc-Andre Fleury. It's like
that was an awkward competition.
Yeah, not an awkward competition, but we definitely have a healthy competition there. So that'll be good for the Eagles if and when the season starts up on February 5th for sure. Moving on to specifically Colorado Eagles news and notes. Okay, so I don't know about you, Scott, but jumping back to the bracket challenge that the Eagles did, I want to say, a month and a half ago now. I understood it as, okay, who do you think should win, like, altogether? The bracket, like, I didn't think we were picking the fan picks. like who the fans thought. Like, I thought they're just like, oh, submit your picks as to what your favorite jerseys are. And so I filled out the bracket under that premise, and I was like, well,
I mean, I think we're all fans, you know, at the end of the day. So you could read into it however you'd like to, but I think, you know, you are voting. We could be included in that fan bracket, but all I know is my pick didn't win. It was out like the first round, so I'm a little bummed out. But interesting pick, I think. I've talked about it with a few people of them. I mean, the 17-18 jerseys are great and all, but I mean, in my opinion, they're kind of a little bit bland. I think there were better options on the board, and you know, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's what the fans picked, and that's what we got. And I'm not going to say I hate those jerseys, but I think there were certainly better options. But I don't know. What do you think? I know you kind of we discussed it in a couple of podcasts ago about what we wanted, but I would have liked to see that Avs inspired, you know, third jersey they rocked this last year. I know that took second place, so that's great. But I wanted the 03-04s. I wanted the old away jerseys. I think those were great. Would have liked to see those win, but again, I think they're out like first or second round. So what do I know? I don't have good taste. That's about learned.
Hey, you know what? You and I both picked those jerseys, and so you know, it was. I always love it when, like, an affiliate, whether it be any minor league affiliate for any sport, I always like it when they tie in, you know, to their parent club a little bit, or a lot of it, as the Eagles did there with the Avs inspired jerseys, because the Eagles, you know, they have their own brand. You know, they've got the blue, yellow, and red. They've got those primary colors as their colors, you know, Colorado State flag colors and everything like that, you know. And hearkening to the Avalanche, it's like when, oh gosh, I want to say Utah did something similar to that with their Avalanche affiliation, the Utah Grizzlies of the ECHL, but I can't remember off the top of my head, so I won't strain myself. But yes, so it's an interesting thing that you've got, you know, it kind of goes back to what you said. You know, you kind of you know, waxed a little. What's the word I'm looking for? You're kind of nostalgic in the sense that, you know, these jerseys mean this much to me because I grew up watching this team. Sure. And I think that's what fans have going on here. Is that was the last year in the ECHL.
It was a good year, so I get it. But I think the old guard, if you will, us old fans who've been there since, you know, 03-04, it's got a soft spot in our hearts, I think. And that's how I voted.
Right.
Personally. But then, you know, again, that's how a lot of the 17-18 people voted too. It was a fantastic year. It was a memorable year. It was a fun year. So I get it. But from a purely design perspective, let's leave nostalgia, you know, on the outside. I think there's better designs out there. But that's just me. What do I know?
Yeah, sure. And for the viewers at home, just in case there is any shadow of a doubt, I'm gonna share the screen here. So this is it right here. This is the winning jersey and those blacks right there. And so they're solid looking jerseys. I can't discount that. Those are
hating on them.
No, but like you said, I mean, like you said, Scott, it's just a matter of you know, nostalgia maybe taking over a little bit over style and over maybe just the looks of it. But hey, those are your winners, the 17-18 dark jerseys for the Colorado Eagles. Go ahead, Scott.
The whole point of that jersey bracket challenge was they're, you know, at the end of this thing gonna release a brand new jersey, which, breaking news, it is Thursday. So I know this is gonna come out tomorrow when the jerseys are coming out, but 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, the Eagles are finally gonna release those brand new jerseys. And from what I gathered from the little teaser, it's they're gonna be Colorado Sky jerseys. So I think they're rocking some, it's gonna be baby blue with some white stripes in there somewhere. And not at all what I expected. I was thinking they were going to incorporate a lot. I wrote a story on this on Colorado Hockey Now. You know, just kind of, I guess, pontificating what I thought it was going to be. And I thought, you know, a lot of the AHL teams, kind of like you were saying a little bit earlier, they do incorporate, you know, their NHL affiliates colors in there somewhere. And, you know, the Eagles kind of paid homage to that a little bit with their third jerseys this past season, whereas essentially the Avs jersey with the Eagles crest on the front. And I was kind of expecting, you know, something very similar for them to wear from here on out, but they're going with a totally different, you know, color. They're going with baby blue and white. And I think it's gonna be fun. I hear there is gonna be some Avs incorporated in there, so it's not gonna be totally just out of the blue for lack of a better word. But should be interesting. I'm excited to see them. I think the fans are gonna love them. And yeah, those are coming out 10 a.m. tomorrow, Friday, the 13th. Interesting day.
Yeah, and kind of, yeah, I was going to bring that up. It was kind of a crazy little tease that just came up. I mean, it reminded me of a little bit of what the Seattle Kraken did. Of course, Seattle being an NHL team and revealing their identity. I mean, that's huge. But I mean, I think, from a marketing perspective, to create a lot of buzz in a short period of time, I think was a wise move. I think it just, to draw it out and be like, oh, they're coming. This is the date. Because I remember they did that with the Avs jersey. The first, well, it was last off season.
Yeah.
So it feels like 100 years ago now, of course. Right. But yeah, they did that. They kind of drew it out, and it's like, okay, it's going to be at the Summit. We're going to debut them there, and it's going to be this date, and they kind of, booked it out for a few weeks and bumped it out that way. But once again, I'll share the screen here, and we're going to have a little weird effect, mirror effect. But yeah, there it is. There is the announcement on ColoradoEagles.com. And you got that little teaser right here with the blue, sky blue bar around the waist there. And yeah, we'll definitely see.
I like the color too,
Yeah.
So again, in other jersey news, of course, I think a lot of people know now about the NHL reverse retro jerseys they're rolling out. And Adidas on their Twitter account kind of teased what at least the back of the jersey is going to look like. And, it's not going to be a whole bunch of Quebec Nordiques blue, but, on the back, it's like a plain white jersey with some burgundy stripes in there. So they're incorporating, the Avs colors, but the number 79 kind of has some significance. If you guys are, Nordiques fans or Avs fans, 1979 was the first year that the Nordiques played in the NHL following the NHL and WHA merger that happened in 1979. So, I mean, that was a subtle confirmation that with that 79 on the back of the teaser jersey, that there is going to be probably a Quebec Nordiques logo on the front. And where I was getting at with that was that Colorado sky color looks, very, very similar to the Nordiques blue. So I don't know if that's some sort of, this is purely just speculation. So I don't know if that's, some sort of tie in there. But it's interesting. And I think those reverse retro jerseys, we're also going to get another teaser tomorrow. And I think Monday, I hear they're gonna release them to the world. So we'll see. I think a lot of fans will be happy. A lot are going to be upset, as they always are, because it's not going to be, the Quebec Nordiques home jerseys from the 80s. But I think it's going to be cool. It'll sell, I think.
Yeah, I tell you, I grew up playing NHLPA 93 before the mecca of all hockey games, NHL 94, came out. And on NHLPA 93, of course, who did you have? You had the Quebec Nordiques. Same with NHL 94. The Avs didn't come around till the 95-96 season. So, I, as a kid, fell in love with the Nordiques, that baby blue, kind of that sky blue. It's like even when, so yeah, the baby blue and the sky blue, they're going to be a little different. Sky blue is going to be a little darker. I was going to say the Nuggets kind of embraced the baby blue, a lot more during the Chauncey Billups and Carmelo Anthony
early 2000s jerseys. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, that sky blue, that where the dark jerseys for the Nordiques were just that sky blue in the back. Like, I'm a sucker for that as well. So I'm really excited and really curious to see how both the Eagles and the Avalanche incorporate that, and how, like you said, yeah, I did see kind of an artist's rendering, like kind of a little bit of a mock-up as to what someone would think that would be, maybe making the fleur de lis, just burgundy instead of white, or that sky blue. And then, incorporating more burgundy into it. I think it can be tactfully done and well done while honoring the past of the Nordiques, era of this franchise. Yeah, I'm really excited for it too. It's going to be a fun couple days.
I know a lot of people are kind of nervous because I don't know if they're going to go with like an Avs jersey with like a Quebec Nordiques, that baby blue kind of like filled in with the Avs logo, or if they're going to actually go full in with the Nordiques logo. So I think it's got to be Nordiques logo or bust. I think a lot of people are going to be very, very upset if it's not.
If you're going to tout the reverse retro look, then you've got to go for it. I know the Flames, I think the date on the back of their jersey was like 01. So they're going to go with probably the old Calgary font going this way.
Yeah.
in cursive, which I think looks really classy.
Yeah.
And, you know, from the early 2000s once again. But because they're, Calgary, they're already embracing the past by switching back to their 80s jerseys that they won the Stanley Cup in, you know, the kind of the Ronald McDonald colored jerseys, for lack of a better term. But they look damn good. That's the thing. They look so damn good. I love it. But I digress. I'll throw this in here real quick. So we're both looking forward to those jerseys. The AHL, the Henderson Silver Knights. So I'm actually writing an article, a critique about this. Basically, the Henderson Silver Knights debuted their kits, you know, their jerseys, their socks, their gloves. They look exactly like the Golden Knights, except there's some color reversals and all the red has been removed, that, you know, the little red accents in the Golden Knights jerseys and things like that. But I'm writing an article about it, and, you know, I'm kind of adhering to the point where it's like, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. You know, I mean, I know, again, Eagles have their own identity, but the Henderson Silver Knights, you know, you kind of grab the low hanging fruit with the name, and now you're also kind of grabbing the low hanging fruit with the jerseys. But what's really cool is that the inside of the numbers and the font are that metallic gold that the Golden Knights, you know, and I really like that. I really like how that differentiates between like another monochromatic team that I'm thinking of in the Ontario Reign in the Pacific Division. And that kind of, you know, sets them apart and gives them a little more panache and kind of that Vegas glitz that, you know, that they're known so well for. But anyway, I'm writing an article about that. Just wanted to throw that in there. You know, cheap plug. But anyway, yeah. So yeah,
either way, a lot of people are going to be happy. A lot of people are going to be upset. Probably more people are going to be upset, you know, by who knows, maybe both jerseys, because it's not exactly what they want it to be. And that's the nature of the beast these days. But I think they're going to sell well. They're fresh. They're new. And I like the idea that what we're going with here. So
yes. And they'll get over it. They'll get over it.
Exactly. Once they see them, you know, on the actual players in action, you tend to like a little bit more, but we'll see what happens tomorrow.
So yes, tomorrow. So moving on, quick note, Kyle Burroughs, you know, acquired from the New York Islanders for AJ Greer on October 11th. The Avs made it official on October 30th. They signed him to a 1-year, 2-way deal. Not a big surprise, you know, unless there's really bad blood, which oftentimes gets, you know, advertised in the media pretty quickly if you hear that there's bad blood in an acquisition like that. But yeah, Kyle Burroughs signed a 1-year, 2-way deal with the Avs on October 30th. We've kind of been over, you know, them getting the leadership of Burroughs, you know, being the captain over for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers and now coming over to the Eagles. Yeah. I mean, it's ground we've already covered, but I did feel like it needed to be mentioned on the podcast. So yeah,
totally. And again, I really do like this, you know, the signing at the end of the day, because they did, you know, the Eagles lost some leadership. They lost Alt to the LA Kings, the Ontario Reign. You know, Greer, the guy that, you know, they kind of swapped for him, was, you know, another guy that's been in the locker room for some time now and was a leader in that locker room. So, you know, you're losing those two guys, but you're gaining a guy who's a veteran. He's played over 300 games in the AHL, and Kyle Burroughs, he fills a need. You know, he's that shutdown D-man that's going to fill Mark Alt's role and some. He's scrappy. I like that. He's big, 6 foot, over 200 pounds. I think he fills a lot of holes that the Eagles needed. It was a good trade. AJ needed to get out of town. You know, he wasn't going to get the roster spot that he wanted. So it sounds like the Avs, they tried to sign him, from what I gathered from Joe Sakic, but he ultimately decided that he wanted to. He knew if he stayed here, he's just going to be playing in the AHL again. So he thought he had a chance in New York, and I wish him the best of luck. I hope he does get that chance, because he could be an NHL player. But
yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, you know, a defenseman, that standout defenseman rather, that may or may not be coming back, Kevin Connauton. I mean, kind of segueing into the last portion of this segment for Colorado Eagles news and notes. No word on the front of Kevin Connauton of where he's going. And I know that, like we talked about last episode, Michael Jolie is in that boat as well. And we'll kind of get to him with one of our fan questions coming up. But let me pull up another graphic here. Let's see. Here we go. All right. This little fancy graphic that I made in regards to who has been acquired, either through trades or signings, you know, rookie contracts or free agent contracts, departed. Like we said, AJ Greer, Mark Alt going to the LA Kings organization. Anton Lindholm got traded. Colin Campbell is actually over in Austria, I believe. That's where the ICEHL is at. Tim McGauley, I think he was a great depth player he was on an MVP tear in the ECHL with the Utah Grizzlies, but he signed in Norway. He probably won't come back. Again, get to him later. And Igor Shrirev, over in the KHL, not a big surprise, but those unknowns down there. Eric Condra, he's a veteran. He just might be at that point in his career where he might call it a career. But Connauton, Jolie, we'll get to Julian Nantel as well. But yeah, those re-signed folks over in the right-hand column, it varies. Everyone from, Avalanche, NHL, AHL talent like a Hunter Miska and Sheldon Dries, Logan O'Connor, to the guys that are AHL, ECHL talents like a Joe Wegworth and Kevin Davis, Peter Tischke, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I wanted to show off that graphic just to see kind of if people didn't see it on Twitter when I posted it out there. This is what we're looking at currently in the Eagles organization, Avalanche Eagles organization, and even down to the Grizzlies as well, into who's got an NHL or an AHL contract. So yes, I did want to touch on that, of course, before we got into the fan questions, that's currently, as of November 12th, the evening as we're recording this, that's where we're sitting right now. So Scott, enough of me talking for a second. What do you think of that list? There's some key departures there and like the captain Mark Alt and all that, but currently where the Avalanche and the Eagles sit, how do you feel about that?
I feel okay. A lot of turnover for sure. I mean, you get a couple of veteran guys like, Tynan, Megna, those guys re-signing. Kaut, who knows where he's going. We'll talk about that a little bit later in one of the fan questions. Timmins, some of those guys are coming back. That's great. But I like what the Eagles did. I think they dropped some of the guys that were kind of, I guess, stagnating for lack of a better word. Maybe guys that have been in the organization a little too long and, weren't necessarily filling needs that the Eagles needed at the time. But I like, we talked about it last time, I like how big they got. And I think that's, if you want to be a playoff team, you want to make deep runs, you got to be a little bigger. The Avs, they ran into it with the Stars. They're kind of just the smaller team. Dallas, the more physical team. It's the team that wins the Stanley Cup is generally the bigger, stronger team. And it's the same for the AHL. Just work your way down the list. I like what they did. They got big, they got strong, and I think it'll turn into a few more wins this year. I hope.
Yeah, when you have bruising physicality and it can help your star players that may not be as tall or as foreboding as intimidating as some of the other guys, it definitely can only benefit you, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there it is. Colorado Eagles news and notes. And last but not least, we got a lot of ground to cover, as I plainly said in the beginning of the program, but asking the feed, a lot of social media engagement. Also, thanks to your boss, Adrian Dater, for retweeting that.
Yeah, always love that.
And getting a little extra ground there. So we've got a lot of questions coming in. So let's start first and foremost. Guy who grew up in Colorado Springs, come to find out, covers the Rush for the Sin Bin, the Rapid City Rush in the ECHL. Mike Crook always has good questions. I'll start off with him. Mike says, what are the Avs/Eagles doing to prepare for the new norm next season? Changes in practice protocol, travel, game day, etc. Oh boy, living in the city and county of Denver and me in Adams County. Oh, Scott, as well as I do, that can change from moment to moment.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough question to answer, especially when it's changing on a weekly basis this time. I know we're not going in the right direction currently, at least where I'm at here in Denver and the surrounding counties, just, I guess everywhere in general, we're hitting some new highs, and you hate to see it. So we'll see. We have until, January, February, whenever the season starts. So hopefully things kind of calm down. But, you keep hearing from local health officials and national health officials and whatnot that the worst is yet to come. So we'll see. But I'm fully expecting, I'm sure the team, we're seeing the college teams that are starting to get back going, and, they're practicing, everything's fine there. But I think from the media side of things, I think we're probably, going to be out of the locker rooms. I think it's going to be all done probably over Zoom. And that's just kind of how it's going to be for probably, we kind of expected it for at least this next season, and who knows until there's a vaccine or whatnot. But I don't think anything's going to change for the Eagles with their practice schedule. I do think the AHLs and the NHL are exploring, maybe a hybrid bubble system for the first part of the season. And I've heard the AHL might do that as well. We might see some realignment and, teams camping out in certain cities for a while and kind of playing each other in round robin tournaments. We'll see what happens, but I fully expect that to happen. At the collegiate level, they're doing that. The NCHC, where the Denver Pioneers play, they're, for the first month of the season, the first 10 games of the year, playing in Omaha, Nebraska in a bubble,
right,
along with the rest of the NCHC to, limit travel and keep the players safe and whatnot. So I think we're probably going to see the same thing, the NHL and AHL level for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm. And, if you want to take a look on a local level on how a professional sports team is handling this in the state of Colorado, look at the Denver Broncos. They have had a number of COVID-19 positive tests, and I mean, which NFL team hasn't really? Obviously it's going to vary and everything, but when you're, President John Elway and your owner, when those guys are also testing positive for COVID-19 and have to quarantine, and, Denver has so many COVID tests, and, Shelby Harris just got a positive test, just yesterday. And so it's like, or maybe it was today. I think it was today. It was a long day, so it felt like yesterday, but, right. But yeah, I mean, you look at the Denver Broncos, they are obeying state and local guidelines to the best of their abilities, but then they've also got, the NFL guidelines that they're doing. And I think it's going to be the same for the Avalanche and for the Eagles. Should, like you said, a hybrid bubble system come into play for either the NHL once it starts at the beginning of January, tentatively, or the AHL once it begins at the start of February, tentatively. You've got these guidelines, and there's going to be NHL and AHL guidelines that fall into that as well. So you've got a threefold for the for the professional hockey teams here in Colorado. You've got like I said, leagues, and then you've also got the state, and then you've also got local guidelines. So and that's going to be ever changing, and I think that's also going to be shifting depending on, well, the results have been called by pretty much every journalistic publication, major one anywhere in the United States, for Joe Biden. There's going to be some lawsuits and everything that Donald Trump is bringing forth. But should the presidency continue on without a hitch in regards to Joe Biden, that he's going to handle the situation differently than Donald Trump is. And that's just a political fact. That's not me trying to spin it one way or another. It's just the fact that Donald Trump is handling the coronavirus and the COVID-19 situation differently than Joe Biden has planned out that he is going to. And so, once he takes the office of the presidency. So again, it could be a political thing. It's a local jurisdiction. It's a statewide jurisdiction. And so, Mike, long answer to a short question, but we don't know. There's going to be a lot of factors that play into it.
Yeah, it's a strange world we live in, and who knows when this thing's going to end. It feels like it's never going to end. I don't even know how many years it's been going on. It feels like years, but we'll see. We shall see. That's the answer, I guess, we have for you.
Yep. Yeah, we shall see. But we answered the question to the best of our abilities and the best of our knowledge. So, Mike up there in Rapid City, South Dakota, thanks as always for your question, bud. Appreciate it. Next question from our good friend Kevin Lacey at Kevin Lacey 22 on Twitter. Covers the San Jose Sharks, or the Sharks and the Barracuda down there in the Bay Area. With San Antonio moving to Henderson and joining the Pacific, do you think the Colorado Eagles would move to the Central Division for this season?
I hear that's the most likely thing that's going to happen. And, kind of, I guess, lost in the news cycle. I mean, this is, a while ago, but the Stockton Heat, who knows what's happening with them? A few months ago, maybe a year ago at this point, they talked about moving potentially maybe to Colorado. And I think that's going to it's going to spark some realignment. And I think, with Henderson joining, I think it just makes the most sense for the Eagles to join the Central, at least how I see it.
Sure. Well, and it's going to be, boy, that Stockton to Colorado Springs throws a wrench in that too, because if the Eagles do move to the Central, and then you've got Stockton moving to the Springs and still staying in the Pacific Division possibly, then you've got Palm Springs coming into the league in 2022, I want to say. They're going to be delayed a year because of their whole arena fiasco that happened because of the coronavirus, because of COVID-19. So, you're going to have 32 teams, but you're going to have 9 teams that are west of the Rockies, or at least 9 teams that are in the Mountain or Pacific time zones. So it's going to be weird in that regard. So yeah, one team's going to have to bump over to the Central Division. I do think, Scott, that the Eagles are going to bump over to the Central eventually. I don't think that happens until after Palm Springs comes into the league, because I'm guessing. What's that?
I said no. I would agree with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that once the Palm Springs team, whatever their nickname's going to be, once that team comes into the league and makes their debut in 2022, then I think the AHL is going to stick to how things are. And who knows, if they do a hybrid bubble system, the Eagles might just stay in the Pacific and go down to California for a little bit, because most of the teams are there anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's, especially, this year. I don't think anything's happening this year. I think there's going to be a lot of realignment, but it's not going to be, a permanent thing. So I think there is going to be this bubble system working. And I think probably, California makes the most sense as being that probably bubble capital, if you will, or one of the bubble cities.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't think any realignment's happening anytime soon. And yeah, like you said, I think until we'll get some more concrete stuff when Palm Springs finally joins the league, and then, we finally get our even amount of teams, and then things become a little more clear, and who knows what Stockton's doing.
Well,
yeah, you're right. Like, it really doesn't make sense for, the Eagles to move to the Central, and then, or for Stockton to stay in the Pacific or whatever, when they're, an hour and a half away from each other, 2 hours away from each other. So maybe they'll make a new division. Who knows? But that's all. Only time will tell. Like many things in life.
Sure. Yeah, they might split them up. Just like the NFL divisions, and just have 4 teams per division and kind of do it that way. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to slice that pie, as it were. So, Kevin, thanks for the question, bud. We really appreciate it. And moving on, Jeff _Shamley @Jeff_Shamley on Twitter. With Alt moving on, who's your pick for Eagles captain next season? This is a good one. I like this one.
I do like that one. Something I've thought about too. I think the general rule of thumb is you kind of go with the most tenured, most veteran player on the team. I think that was the case for Alt. He was 20, 28, 29 last year for the Eagles. And also you got to think about who's been on the team, tenure for the longest amount of time. So for now, I think it's going to go to probably, a guy like Jason Megna, or, TJ Tynan wore the A for some time last year. And then you got Sheldon Dries, who wore the A as well. And I think any of those guys are possibilities, but I see it probably going to Megna or Tynan. And I know those guys are, very well respected in the locker room from my experience. And so is Dries, but I think who knows? It's one of those guys going to be the captain. Maybe the other two they wear the A, or we'll see. Maybe it's a training camp battle for someone to win it and step up, because there's a lot of turnover, so it's an open locker room, open season.
Well, and you made a really good point in regards to who's been with the team. It's not just a veteran status; it's a veteran with the Eagles, and kind of a, like you said, a locker room status in that regard. So I was going to say, gosh, if you're talking games played, Kyle Burroughs, I mean, he wore the C in Bridgeport and he's played a lot of games, but I think Burroughs at least gets an alternate captaincy. I think for him, he'll at least get an A on his chest. But yeah, for captain, I'm going to have to go with Tynan. I think Megna, he's been, Megna's been with the team for a season less. So it's like when you have a club that's entering their 3rd season in the AHL, there's only a handful of players that you can pick in that regard. But yeah, I would say Tynan, pretty straightforward that he would be, a guy that would be tabbed for leadership. All the other guys that we mentioned re-signing and everything, they got a solid chance with the Avalanche. So, why not to say waste, but why put the C on somebody who's going to be gone for potentially most of the season,
Sure.
So yeah, I would agree with you there, Tynan. So Jeff, thank you for your question, good sir. Kayla @Kayla Stiletro. Kayla Stiletro 1. What do you think the future holds for both Michael Joly and Julien Nantel?
Oh man, I think a lot of people aren't going to like this answer, but yeah, I think Michael Joly, if he hasn't signed by now, same with Nantel. I just don't think there's a spot for them at this point. And I had the numbers up a second ago, but I think right now there's like over 30 players signed to the Eagles. Of course, some of those guys are going to get demoted to the ECHL and kind of bounce back and forth, but there really just is no room. And it's a much deeper team than it was a few months ago. And yeah, that's a credit to Craig Billington and Joe Sakic and that staff really building this team up. But unfortunately, it does look like Joly. I know he's a fan favorite. It's been on the team for quite some time, rising up the rankings in the ECHL and getting some AHL attention as well. But I'm going to be sad to see him go. But I don't think he's sticking around. And he did have some issues with the injuries. Later on, I think he had some ankle injuries, some foot injuries. So I don't know if that's playing a factor in anything, but he was getting a little more frail as time went by. And yeah, Nantel's he's a more interesting one. So I think he had his best year in the AHL last year, like 8 goals, 13 assists, something like that, or 13 points in 35 games. It was his best year, but he's a 2014 draft pick, and as more time kind of goes by, you kind of can pick and choose the people that are going to be on the team. And we saw AJ Greer. I think he might have been the same year. He might have been 2014 as well. If they haven't made it to the NHL at this point, it's kind of a little bit too late. And you got, again, credit to Joe Sakic and his team. He's really built quite a replete pipeline of prospects coming up. So a lot of those guys are kind of getting pushed to the side, and I think Nantel might be one of those guys too. So we'll see if they're willing to take maybe less money or something to sign an ECHL contract and maybe see a couple games in the AHL. I think they could do it, but it's money so tight right now, like it is for a lot of leagues, especially in the ECHL and AHL, where they just don't have as much money as the bigger leagues like the NHL. But I think it's a money issue, and it's also a personnel issue. There's a little too much going on with the Eagles right now for them to fit in.
Right. Yeah. And it's, it's one thing when you've got, I mean, these are quality guys, these are not just familiar names from the ECHL Eagles that they decide to bring along in the AHL to, specifically and only for fan interest, because, Joly has proven to be a solid fourth line, just a solid fourth line presence. And, and Nantel, like you said, he had his best season in regards to, potting 8 goals and everything like that. That'll come up again in another question here shortly. But yeah, it's, once you get a wealth of riches, in regards to guys that are thrown in, like Dennis Gilbert on the Brandon Saad deal, or, I mean, you're trading AHL guys 1 for 1, but it appears like, with the 29 guys that Elite Prospects has on the Eagles roster, it's like, yeah, some of those guys are going to be ECHL guys, but how many, it's going to be that high or low 20s rather that you're going to have as a roster, or maybe low to mid 20s, depending on what the AHL roster guidelines look like this season. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but if we haven't heard anything in regards to that, they could call it a career. They could go and try and play in Europe. It's unfortunately just kind of how the cookie crumbles. So we'll see, where these guys end up. But
one of those years too. I mean, if COVID wasn't a thing, coronavirus wasn't, a thing, and we were all living our normal lives, they might have gotten some contracts. But I think it's really a money thing. And yeah, like you were saying, it's most of these deals are happening just 1-for-1 trades, because you're not really, losing any money or taking any additional money on the books because they can't afford it at the moment. And like you said, if we haven't heard from them by now, I think this is the roster we're moving forward without them, unfortunately.
Yep. Thank you for your question, Kayla. Appreciate it. Next up, Mark at Mark Avs fan on Twitter. What are the chances Martin Kaut stays in Europe instead of coming back to uncertainty in the AHL with the virus? See any other players moving overseas for playing time?
That's tough. I think obviously they're going to want him to be in the AHL. It's the top developmental league in the world as far as hockey goes. But I think he's in a good situation right now. He's in Sweden now because the Avs can pull him back whenever they want to. So, he could stay there developing his skills all he wants, even though it is uncertain if there's going to be an AHL season or not. But if we get the okay on the AHL starting up again and training camp starting up again, he could just fly him right on out, and he'll be here the next day. But if not, it's like, hey, stay home. I guess not. Stay close to home. He's not in Czech Republic anymore because he actually transferred back to Sweden because they're going through their own coronavirus spikes, and his league shut down. So,
oh man,
he's doing well in Sweden though. I think I just checked this morning. They might play tonight too or tomorrow night, but he's like almost leading the team in goals. He's played 4 games. He has 3 goals. I think the leader of the team has played 11 games and has 4 goals. So he's got 4 points in 4 games, and 3 of those are goals, and he's looking pretty good so far. So again, yeah, that's a good sign for him. And keep him there. Keep developing your skills. It seems like he's doing pretty well, and he's owning it over there. But as soon as the AHL starts, you can go and pull him in off that loan and bring him back to Colorado.
Yeah. And talent is talent, not a surprise that translates over in the, in the continent that he grew up in, European hockey. So, but yeah, I mean, just like Adam Warner, it's a lot of guys are feeling safer in Europe. A lot of guys went over to Europe to kind of answer the second portion of that question. See any other players moving overseas for playing time? We mentioned, Shrirev and Tim McGauley. We mentioned those guys that already made the jump. And that's the thing, is a lot of these leagues have already started. And with so many limited roster spots, they kind of had to get on that quick. They kind of had to jump on that. So, I mean, could they jump in there if, injuries come up and everything like that? Sure. But, you kind of had to be on the, get on the ball, I'm like, jump on it, I was trying to find the words there for a second, but yeah, it's, we'll see. Well, I mean, if they're not already over there and if they're not already from there, then I don't see much of any players. They're either going to stick around in the United States or Canada where they're from, or they're European and they're going to stick around over there. And so we'll see. But like you said, should the restrictions be loosened at any point in the season, you can bet your butt that the Avs or the Eagles will be like, all right, count, you're back.
Over for sure. But
yes, exactly. Mark, thanks for the question, sir. In regards to Kayla's question, Kyle had a response at the Prospect Nerd, just to kind of throw this in there real quick. I'm really surprised Nantel hasn't been re-signed yet. He fits our speed-based style, the Eagles speed-based style, really well, and he even potted 8 goals in a bottom 6 role last year. Like you said, he'd be a better option than Lewis, Henry, and Barron as well, one of which is going to be starting. So, but, maybe he just got edged out by one of those other guys that came in, like a Kyle Burroughs and, a Dennis Gilbert and, some of those other guys. So, but, well, no, I'm thinking defenseman. Sorry. Nantel's not a defenseman.
Yeah.
My bad. Had a little brain fart.
They brought in a lot of wingers though. And that's,
yes, they did.
Plenty of wingers, probably more than any other position. And yeah, that pretty much all but pushes, a guy like Nantel just off the contract list at all. So I think that's what we're seeing. Again, like we said earlier, there's not much room left for him, and it's the unfortunate circumstances that he's had plenty of time to kind of win his spot, and he's drafted in 2014 and just couldn't get it done. But
yeah,
wishing the best of luck, as I do for everyone in their next ventures. And I could see him going to Europe eventually if things don't pan out here. I think you wait until, a couple months before the season officially starts. And if you're still not getting any bites, your agent's not hearing anything, then pack your bags and head that way if you still want to continue your career. But we'll see.
Yep. Yeah. So thanks, Kyle, for chiming in on Kayla's. Whoa, dropped my pencil. Kayla's question. Couple more questions. We'll finish up here. Western_veteran at Jim_Strohmeyer. Did the Eagles owner get coronavirus PPP funds to pay the players? And what are these guys doing to survive right now? I'll answer this real quick because we actually had a bit of a discussion about that in some personal circles. But there's a tweet out by at Mark J. Burns 88, Mark J. Burns on Twitter. Verified account said that the only AHL clubs that got some PPE loans, all in the $150,000 to $350,000 range: Utica, Syracuse, Springfield, Milwaukee, Ontario, and then later added the Chicago Wolves. But the ECHL's Utah Grizzlies is on that list, but the Eagles were not. And in my opinion, Martin Lind, he has a very diversified portfolio. Like, he's got investments in all sorts of different sectors, including minor league professional hockey. So the fact that that is something that he could do and lean upon in regards to, maybe a slush fund for a rainy day to pay players and things like that, that is a possibility. Could they be getting help from the Avalanche as well? That is also a possibility. But Jim, I'll give you a nice, solid, vague answer. We don't know. It wasn't reported in any of the official reports that they did, but what they're doing to survive right now, I'm guessing Lind, he's got a pretty diverse portfolio. He's a very smart businessman and he's making it work. So obviously you're not hearing any rumblings out of Loveland that the Eagles are in dire straits or anything like that. You didn't see their name on that or hear their name on that list that I just read from Mark Burns. Yes, Burns. Yes. The 88 threw me off. I was thinking of Brent Burns from the San Jose Sharks. But anyway, so there's the answer to that question. And yeah, that's all I got on that. But we have a final question. We're going to wrap this up. Chris Haddad at Chris Haddad SD. That's Sierra Delta. Do you see any ECHLers making the move full-time to Loveland this season? This is actually the second to last question. I forgot we got a late entry here about 2 hours ago. So any ECHLers moving full-time to Loveland this season? Scott McDonald.
I was doing a little research when I saw that question and kind of looking over the rosters of both the Grizzlies, both the Eagles, and I think there's a few guys, but Ty Lewis is kind of a guy that I pinpointed as someone who did fantastic with Utah last year. He lit it up in the ECHL, and I think he might be ready to officially make that jump and join the wing and in Eagles country. But I mean, he led Utah with 25 goals and was third on the team in points. With like 50, 51, and 44 games. And again, just absolutely destroyed it. He's young. I think the Avs probably want to see, after that season he had with Utah last year, I think they probably want to see a little bit more of him at the next level, being, the AHL, to see what he can really do, see if he garners another contract at the end of this year. But I think he's a guy that I think, given his talent and, kind of the style he plays that fits with the Avs and the Eagles, I think he might be full-time with the Eagles next year. I guess that'd be my answer. I could go into like a bunch more, but I would say Ty Lewis is probably, again, because we talked about it, there's really not that much room, So I think if there's going to be one guy, there might be one open spot for an ECHL Utah Grizzlies guy to make the jump, and I think it's going to be Ty Lewis if I had to pick one.
Ty Lewis is a good choice. I personally would maybe pick, given the opportunity, just letting his wings. Just letting him spread out his wings. Christian Horn, he is a definite point per game player at the Utah Grizzlies level. Spent a portion of his career in Norfolk, got bounced around. He only played one game for the Grizzlies last year, but he scored a goal. It was a 7-4 win over the Rapid City Rush, which turned out to be the last game that the Grizzlies played in the 2019-20 season. And Christian Horn potted a goal in his one and only game with the Grizzlies. So it's like, he's a point per game player, and point per game players, that those skills, I mean, I don't know his skill set super well, but covering the ECHL for a couple seasons like I have, and seeing him kind of out of the periphery of my, hockey vision, as it were, I think Christian Horn could be another name you could throw in there if you really give him an opportunity to just, blossom on that first line. I think Christian Horn could be a name and a person that you could see up in Loveland should injuries rear their ugly head, and should, given the opportunity to stay and have that staying power, Horn would be my guy. So
I like that. A dark horse candidate there.
Hey,
honestly, I'm the guy. So
hey, that's fair. Like I said, I covered the E for 2 years, and so I'm more familiar with him than I think a guy covering the NHL and the AHL level. So sure. I've got that going for me, which is nice.
There you go. I love that.
All right, this is the last question. Jim Carlson at Jim Carlson 1571. Last but not least, I'm going to toss this over to Scott. Shane Bowers, is he going to be a 1C or a 2 center? A first center or second center role with the Eagles, or will he end up getting more time on the wing? And ultimately, what is the best position and where does he ideally fit with the Avalanche?
That's a loaded question. It's like a three-parter, huh?
I know, right? It was a run-on sentence too, so I kind of had to break it up to, make it a little more consumable for our ears. But
let's break it down one by one, I guess.
Break it down.
So, I mean, we saw Coach Cronin. I had a conversation with him and Bowers, about halfway through the season, about him moving. He's a natural centerman. He's played that, his collegiate days, his junior days. He's a natural centerman. He struggled though, out of the gate. Did not do that well, playing at the middle six center role that he was playing at the time. I think he only had something like just a couple of goals and like 5 or 6 points in the first, half their 16, 17, 18 games, something like that. And then they moved him over to the wing and tried him out over there, and he exploded out of the gate. Had like 8 goals, 20-ish points to finish out the season in the final 30 games. And I talked to Cronin. He said he liked him there. Bowers said, he's not used to it, obviously, but he enjoyed it because obviously putting up points is more fun than not putting up points. And, I think he found good line mates and found kind of carved a new role out for himself. And I'd be interested to see, in training camp, if they keep him on the wing. I know he finished out the year on the wing. Maybe they try to switch him back because, again, like we were talking about a few times now on the podcast, that they added a lot of winger talent to the Eagles this year. So who knows? Maybe they're trying to push him back to that 1C, 2C role. And to answer that first part of the question, I don't know if he's, a 1C quite yet. I think they'll probably try to roll him with that 2C or 3C if he is going to stick to the center role. And as far as he projects with the Avalanche, that's tough. I think he's a depth guy. He's not going to, beat Nathan McKinnon or Nazem Kadri for those top 2 center roles. And I think we see him more as a 3C, 4C if he makes it to the NHL. And I think he'll do great. But I think he's definitely a few years out. I think he needs some time. He's young. I don't want to say maybe they rushed him a little bit out of college, but I think he's a little slow out of the gate for being a first round pick as he was. But I think he's probably going to be, if we do see him in the NHL, I think it's going to be 2 or 3 years down the line at least. Give him some more time in the AHL to really fill out because he is kind of a smaller guy, and really find out if he is a centerman or a winger and kind of find out for himself where he wants to be in the league.
Just a little more seasoning, as it were. So
exactly.
that was my Salt Bay impression. Yep. Just a little bit of Salt Bay right there. I'm not nearly as jacked as he is, but that's my best seasoning. Got a little bit of seasoning for Connor Timmins there. All right. Okay. I take it back. We got so many questions. This is the last one though, and it's an easy one. This is from Teddy at TJ Tracy 92. With the trades for defensemen, where do you think this leaves the Eagles, who were in the playoffs last season? I'm going to guess that this means like, hey, do you think the Eagles make the playoffs? If the season goes forward, I think they do.
Talking about like the apps, like I guess maybe. Like,
right. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I know Teddy pretty well. We interact on Twitter, and he's a big Connor Timmins guy. Shout out to you, Teddy.
Okay.
So I think that's what he's getting at, maybe. But I would say, Timmins. I think I know Coach Bednar really likes the guy. He almost his rookie year, his first training camp, he said he almost won a spot, but ended up going back to wherever he was playing at the time. I forgot where it was. The Sioux Greyhounds. That's when he got the injury, unfortunately, and it kind of backtracked him a little bit and kind of delayed his development quite a bit. But even in this past playoffs that he was playing in, I think he only played 2 or 3 games. But he just talked. Coach Bednar just raved about him every single practice. How he's an intelligent player, one of the more intelligent players on the ice for being how young he is. He always makes the smart, safe play, which sounds kind of boring because I think a lot of people want him to be a Cale Makar because that's kind of how he's projected. When he was coming out of the Sioux. But I think he's kind of developing more into stay-at-home defenseman. That's what we've seen, with the Eagles last year, and what we've seen in his limited action with the Avalanche, that he is, kind of going to be more of that bottom 4 kind of guy on the defense. I don't think with all the guys that the Avs brought in this year, especially with Devon Taves signing his contract and looking like he's going to be in the top 6 for the Avalanche, I think Timmins is probably more of that 7th defenseman. So I think we'll see him plenty in Loveland. and he'll be the first to be called up, I think, for the Avalanche. But don't worry, Teddy. I think Timmins going to be back in Eagles country, and I'm sure he probably wants to see him in the Avalanche. He wants to see him succeed, but
sure,
a lot more in Loveland, I think, for now.
Yeah. Well,
that was the answer to the question. I don't know. Like,
I
was like, I don't know. Like, maybe I should have like clarified that one, but I hope that's what we're getting out there.
Yeah, I mean, with the trades for defensemen, where do you think this leaves the Eagles, who were in the playoffs last season? See, and I view that as like, okay, well, they're gonna make the playoffs again. In my opinion, they're gonna at least try.
If that is what he's getting at, and I said if that is what he's getting at, then yeah, I would say yes, the Eagles are making the playoffs. Yes. Totally. But yeah. We'll
well, there you go. All the questions are done. The mailbag is closed. Well, the feed rather the window has been closed for the feed in digital land. So there we have it. I think this is one of our longest episodes ever, but we had a lot of ground to cover in regards to, the people chiming in, the fans asking the questions, and Scott and I think we did a pretty admirable job, in my opinion.
I'm gonna make it a little bit longer though, because I want to say something before we go to a couple of good friends of mine.
Feel free, go for it.
So McAllister, Cal Miller, as he's known, he's been running the Colorado Eagles social media for a couple of years now. He's leaving the team. He's taking a job elsewhere, so I wish him the best of luck. And then another long time Eagles employee, Chris Augusto, who's the vice president of ticketing. He's been with the team since 2003, their inception in the 03-04 season. He is also leaving, unfortunately. So, I mean, I wish them best of luck in their new career ventures, and we'll miss them for sure in Eagles country. They did a lot for the team to grow the brand quite a bit, and I think they did a good job. And again, wish them the best of luck.
Absolutely. Yeah. I knew about Augusto, but I didn't know about Cal Miller there. So good for him, though. I mean, I know he came over from the Arizona Coyotes to take the job in Loveland, and it has done a great job. I mean, so that's kind of mind-blowing news for me. But yeah, congrats to those guys, and yes, definitely wish them the best in their next endeavor for sure. Yeah. So thank you for that. All right. Well, we'll wrap this up with a nice little bow. I totally put the wrapping paper on, and then Scott's like, wait, I have something to say.
I have something. I was like, I'm glad. I wanted to get it first, I wanted to lead with that, but I'm glad I got it in there. I remembered last second.
That's good. Because we're going to be doing this in December next time. It's going to be another month down the road. So I'm glad you got that in now instead of having to, add it in later. So, well, that's the end of the episode. This has been the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. Once again, my name is CC Hockley of the sinbin.net. Scott, we got our Twitter handles down below on the little ticker there, but Scott, you mentioned Colorado Hockey Now. Any new articles in the hopper you got going on?
I'll probably write a little something about the Eagles new jerseys tomorrow and kind of break that down, and maybe I'll reach out to some Eagles people and then get them on the phone and see what the thought process was behind these brand new jerseys. Other than that, I was talking to Dater before this podcast aired. It's kind of we're in that dead period. We're brainstorming some ideas, and I think it's going to be a lot of opinion pieces. I might do something. I posted on Twitter earlier about how I think, the more I'm looking at the cap situation next offseason, which I know is looking way too far ahead, the more I think Eric Johnson's on his way out of Colorado. So
I saw that. Yes, I did see that.
A little opinion piece, a Scott Takes, as I call them, on Colorado Hockey Now that I'll be writing soon. So stuff in the pipeline for sure, but obviously it is slower at times. So you guys have any ideas, I'll plug my Twitter as we just said. I guess it's down here.
Yep.
At Scott Free on Twitter. The O is a 0 FF Scott Free. Follow me there, interact with me. DMs are open. I love talking hockey with you guys.
Same here at Sinbin Eagles. That's where you can find me. Once again, for Scott McDonald, my name is CC Hockley. I'll be working on a Gear Guru article, like I said, about the Henderson Silver Knights' new jerseys, new sweaters, and I'll probably have to chime in on those new Colorado Eagles sweaters as well and have a little Gear Guru article sometime next week. So, but once again, for Scott, I'm CC. This has been the Colorado Eagles Tape to Take podcast. Y'all have a good one.
You've been listening to the Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. For the latest news on the Eagles, the American Hockey League, and the rest of minor league hockey, visit thesinbin.net or download the SendBin app for Apple and Android devices.